Madam Speaker, this bill, it insults me that you're doing this today, because all the majority does is beat down business constantly and then do something like this that pretends it's doing something good. You have everybody duped. The business groups are supporting it because they have Stockholm Syndrome. But time and time and time and time again, you are beating on business. It's a shame that our business community should suffer so much abuse by the Democrats. Over years and years and years and years of abuse, this bill is a gimmick. And that, Madam Speaker, the answer is no. Don't pass it. Thank you.
The New Jersey Statehouse Watch is on. From Trenton, we explain what's happening inside the Statehouse, speaking directly with legislators, policymakers, and budget experts to bring you the facts behind the decisions.
There's no doubt that energy bills are about to skyrocket this summer.
$300 million to Newark billionaires? That ain't cutting it for rural New Jersey. Enough of it.
Madam Clerk, please on the sheet for a vote.
Received 46 votes in the affirmative, 25 in the negative, and 0 abstention.
We break down bills as they move through the New Jersey legislature before they become law. With your hosts, Jack Brangan and Constance Ditzel. So stick around. Here's Jack and Connie.
We're going to start with small business a little bit. In fact, Jack, why don't you tell them a little bit about that clip?
Yeah, actually, we'll have Ryan on in a few minutes, but this was about the diner. I think it's also called the soda pop bill.
Mm-hmm.
This was introduced by Lou Greenwald, and this was a tax break for diners, and only diners that have been around for 25 years. So if you did not fit that very narrow definition, you're out of luck, and, Brian is right that this is a gimmick more than anything else. So that's what that was about. And we're going to cover other things that's going on in Trenton as well.
Right. We're going to talk about a resolution that was busy in Trenton this week, a resolution that has to do with independent contractors. And they showed up in numbers to testify public comment this past week. And then we're going to switch to how big business owners play ball, quite literally, sports fans. You can see how they are filling their pockets and who is profiting, not you. This is a quick trivia question you can answer later, and that is, what does the 76ers practice stadium in Camden, the Prudential Center in North Jersey, and the World Cup coming to town, what do those three events have in common? We'll share that with you later. It has to do with cha-ching. So,
right. Yeah, it's always about money.
It's always about money. But how is it about money is what we're going to try to explain.
Yeah. So this is New Jersey Statehouse Watch. We are on the second and the fourth Tuesday of every month. So this is the fourth Tuesday.
Right.
And if you're not here live, you can watch any of the past episodes by downloading, from Apple, Amazon, or Spotify. And we've done 5 podcasts so far. The first one was with Paul Kenitra from Legislative District number 10. This is available for download. The second one we did was Sean Hyland from the New Jersey Family Policy Center. And that was pretty much a discussion about abortion with Paul, who was the sanctuary state. The third episode we had was Melanie Dragone, and she is part of what we call New Jersey FIPAC, which is the MAHA organization in New Jersey. Very important discussion because New Jersey has pulled away from the CDC. After 60 years, we're no longer going to be following them. And New Jersey is going to go on its own and partner up with 4 or 5 other states. And with this consortium, they're going to start making their own decisions with regard to your family's health and vaccines. The fourth episode was Dawn Fantasia If you don't know who Dawn is, if you live in New Jersey and you're halfway interested in what's going on in Trenton, you've certainly heard about Dawn Fantasia. She is posting daily, and like Brian and the other Republicans that are in the assembly, they are clear thinkers, and they are fighters for all of us in the assembly, as is Dawn. And then the last one we had, episode number 5, was with Vicki Flynn from LD13. We talked about school funding. You can't talk about money or the budget without talking about school funding, which is an absolute mess. There's 160 school districts that lost funding again this year, and many of them have lost year on year. And they're at a point where they're selling buildings, to try to make ends meet. The other thing we talked about with Vicki was the John R. Lewis voter registration bill. This is a biggie. Yeah. With the legislation that the Democrats are pushing through, you've got things like the sanctuary state. You have us pulling away from the CDC. You have budget issues. And then we have the John R. Lewis, which is going to change all the laws in terms of how the local board of elections operates. They will be subordinate now to an organization that'll be within the Treasury Department.
And another add to our budget.
And more money.
More money.
I think
layering on more to our budget.
I think they allocated $2.5 million or something like that to start it up. But next year it's going to be 20.5. And the year after that. So more and more people are going to join. But the point is, that person who's heading up that department really is going to be running the elections pretty much in New Jersey. That's sort of a scary thing. That person is appointed by the ruling party, the Democrats. It is not an elected position. So that's what we've had so far. You can log on to NJStatehousewatch.com. And on our website, there's a red button there to watch past episodes. That's NJStatehousewatch.com. Real easy to get to. It's all 5 are there, and we'll add after his episode will go tonight, and we'll keep adding as we go there. So.
And we have a contact form on there. So please contact us if you want to give us any information. We welcome critique. So whatever you have to add, we would welcome hearing about. So that's on njstatehousewatch.com.
That's right. If you have, if your local legislator, if you think that they would be interesting to have on, fill that form out and on our website and send it in. And we'll go from there. So, should we bring Brian on?
We have a guest.
Okay. Brian was in the green room, and that's Mr. Producer. Let's bring him on live. If we can.
I don't know that we've said his full name yet.
What's that?
Brian Bergen. I don't know that we said his last name
That's
yet.
right. He's coming in from outer space. It'll take a while. There he is.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Hey,
Hey, Brian.
good evening.
Okay, Brian, you are Legislative District 26. So tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your history, and where LD 26 is.
Sure. Well, my name is Brian Bergen. I represent LD 26, which basically is East Hanover, and Florham Park form like a little cradle at the bottom. And I go from there straight up 287 to New York. And I hit everywhere in between. It's a little this way, a little that way, all the way up to 87. Gerrymandered by someone other than me. And
Right.
that makes up my entire district, which is 12 towns in Morris County and 4 in Passaic County. I'm a West Point grad. I was an attack helicopter pilot in the Army for quite a while. I'm a small business owner. And several years ago, I ended up running for town council, got in the council. And just about as soon as that happened, my state assemblyman decided to retire. I ran for a seat, and I've been doing it ever since. And man, do I love it.
Yeah. So is Parsippany part of your district?
Yeah, sure is.
It is. I did spend 5 years working in Parsippany.
That's a great town.
There, along, was it Route 10 that goes through there?
Yep.
A
bunch of roads go through there. Route 10, 46, 287.
Right.
80, it's a real
After
hub.
5 years, I sort of knew my way around, and
That's it.
we're in the southern part of the state, right? We're in the garden part of the state.
Got it.
And frankly, North Jersey, if you grew up in South Jersey, North Jersey seems to be just the notion is just a mess. But once I worked up there, it is really quite nice. And it is much more rural than I thought it was.
Yeah, well, listen, you get most of your water. Most of the water from New Jersey comes out of the highlands up here. We got, forests and mountains and trees, and North Jersey is not just a big parking lot. If that's what people may suggest. It's quite the opposite. Particularly in my district, it's a beautiful place.
It really is very rural, and we at the same time we're the most densely populated state, I think, in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah, I think late night humor gave New Jersey a bad rap a long time ago. I came from Ohio, and all we heard about New Jersey was Exxon oil fields, and any mockery you got from Jay Leno going back in the day, and anybody else for late night. Anyhow,
did you see that clip that we played of you in the beginning?
Sure did. Yep.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask, man. So I wanted to ask. Jack had that in there. Years and years and years of abuse. Tell me about the abuse to small business people, because apparently you're also a small business owner.
Sure. Listen, if I was going to list all the abuse going from the state to our business owners, it would take us a week of straight recording. But the idea is this. It is nonstop overregulation, and it's death by 1,000 cuts. They make all these silly laws that impact business and make it difficult to operate business in New Jersey. And, like I was saying, I believe in that clip was you got these big business groups like the NJBIA that are advocating for bigger business, and they forget about the little guy. And you got lobby firms that represent a certain industry that just work to get them carved out of the bill. And we're left with a crappy bill that crushes people, that has, the people who have special interest groups protecting them carved out of it. There's a million examples I could give about the difficulty of running a small business in New Jersey. It's awful. And it depresses me, because small business is the economic engine that really drives us. And
it is.
We want it to be successful.
Yeah. Wasn't there a bill that lowered the number of employees for maternity leave or something?
Sure. Well, the Family Medical Leave Act used to be 50 employees and above. And the Family Medical Leave Act basically said it's job protected leave. So if you have to go out for a covered leave of any kind, you're caring for a loved one, a maternity leave, something like that your job was protected. You had to be reinstated to your job. And not too long ago, you had to have 50 or more employees for that you have to adhere to that. Then New Jersey went down to 30. Then New Jersey went down to 15 employees. Think about it. If you're a diner, like you saw in the clip that Soda Pop Act, if you're a diner, you got 2 cooks, one during the day, one at night. One has to go out on FMLA. You can't hire another cook. Or you hire one and say, hey, I only need you for 3 months. And then, by the way, the employee doesn't actually have to come back. There's no reciprocal there. You have to protect their job. There's no guarantee they actually come back. And what it made me the most mad about that bill was at the last minute, they changed it to include things like if you have a failed adoption. So you're going through the adoption process.
Oh, my goodness.
It falls through. You can take 12 weeks of job protected leave. I mean, what are we doing here, man?
Yeah, this is a killer.
You mentioned a few other things. You mentioned the minimum wage was raised, right? That's pretty recent history. Minimum wage. Of course, our gas tax is affecting everybody's with your deliveries.
Yeah, there was a temp worker bill that came out that made it nearly impossible to hire temps. You have to pay a temp worker the average of all the wages that are in a current position at your current company. So somebody doesn't know anything is going to make the middle band of what all your employees make. And that's what they have to make. So you have to pay the temp agency on top of that. Makes hiring temp workers impossible. I mean, we could go on and on and on all day. Yeah.
So why does business in New Jersey just settle for the 11.5% tax? It seems like they're quiet. They should be. I mean, the irony when Mamdani, took over in New York, he was threatening New York with 11.5% corporate tax. That was his threat.
Right.
And we're already there. We are there at 11.
There's no cohesive, unified, meaningful advocacy group advocating on behalf of all business. It's fractured. The business lobby in New Jersey is not a viable lobby. That's the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, what is the NJBIA? Is that what you mean?
NJBIA. They're more concerned with getting invited to cocktail parties and having a speaker with a big title. Then that's it. That's all they care about, man. They're not working for making the business community better. Awful.
Yeah. I don't know how any business could make a decision to come here to New Jersey. I was just mentioning to Constance, I was watching the part of the Indianapolis 500, and the lieutenant governor from the state of Indiana was being interviewed. And of course, he's talking up Indiana. And one of the things he mentioned was the corporate tax in Indiana, which is 4.9%.
Yeah.
So we're sitting at 11.5%.
Yeah.
And he's telling people, come to Indiana,
Right.
And
right, we shoot ourselves in the foot. And listen, New Jersey could be a great place to be for business. I mean, it's so centrally located. It's got access to everywhere. It's a great spot to be. But we have abused the businesses that have been here, and we're driving them away. And at some point, that'll break. It's just a matter of when.
They've been banking on that for years. Again, I said I came from out of state. They've been banking on it for years, that people are drawn to the Jersey Shore, that you've got the best schools, something we both question. We've been diving into the education thing for a while, but they've been banking on these things, and it's wearing thin. There are other places with nice beaches. But it is interesting. One of the reasons I moved out here was proximity to New York City and the beach. It's kind of funny. But I'd think twice now. So,
but on a positive, New Jersey could be a great place, and it is a great place, and I love New Jersey. It's just for some reason, as lawmakers down in Trenton, the Democrats they just constantly beat up on those that are trying to make New Jersey better and trying to keep it a great place. So it's got a negative effect, and then they get lucky. They'll get lucky where a business comes or something, and they pretend like they just saved the world, and then they're going to ultimately drive them out too. And there's only so much luck that that can overcome the stupidity.
Right. So we have things like that tax, and there's an undercurrent of costs that associated, for example, with the illegal aliens, which Paul Knitra's report estimated probably now close to 1 million in the state, and costing the state $6.2 or $6.3 billion in goods and services that are being sucked out of the economy, because when they come across the border, they do not have a Blue Cross and Blue Shield card in their wallet, and someone has to pay for that insurance. And from an insurance standpoint, it's the New Jersey citizen taxpayer that's going to pick that up.
I believe it's come out 1 in 5 in New Jersey are on Medicaid.
Yeah.
They're not coming across the border without with their, like you said, their Blue Cross Blue Shield card. So 1 in 5 on Medicaid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Well, certainly, no matter where the cost is coming from, the state bloat is becoming a problem, and so they're constantly chasing revenue sources, and revenue sources equal taxes, and that's what makes our state, not a great place to be at.
They think they can tax their way out of this situation, where I think the only way is to lower corporate tax and build the economy within the state. A strong economy is going to generate more revenue and more tax than just simply taxing people to death.
That's you're 100% right.
Yeah, and there is an outbound migration that's always ranked up, in the top 5 in the nation, that we have more people leaving New Jersey and billions of taxable income that's going out the door and being backfilled by illegals that keeps the population numbers up, but not a tax base. There's not a tax. In fact, it's a cost. It's a cost driver there. Yep. So and then we have this subcontractor bill, right? That's
right.
Around.
Yeah. This the summary, this resolution. It's not a bill. It's a resolution, right? And this was the ABC criteria. Could you tell us a little bit about this? This was just very hot in Trenton this week, right?
Yeah, so it has to do with independent contractors and the ABC test. So the bottom line is, if you're like an independent contractor, you are a freelancer of any kind. It just makes it so much more difficult for you to operate. Really does. And there are benefits to having more people on as W-2 employees, but there's a space in there where it's not a W-2 employee. You're an independent contractor, and we have to preserve that opportunity for people. And the state is trying to, again, like you mentioned before, part of the driver of this is trying to suck all the they want the payroll tax. They want the taxes associated with that. They want to pull the money in. And so they're trying to reclassify people in a negative way. And again, this goes to show you that the business lobby is not doing a good job at beating these things back. They let too many of them through.
Yeah.
We both listened to a lot of the Department of Labor discussion, all the people coming forward. And my takeaway was that if the unions, the tradesmen, there might be better rationale for those groups. They need the insurance, they need the workman's comp, they're serving the public and all that. But then you have, I guess somebody said there's 1.7 million independent contractors. And she's pointing out, you've got your artists, your graphic designers, your real estate brokers, all these folks, and they're the ones that are left hung out to dry. So you got two different segments being treated the same way. A lot of comparison, I guess, with California. And that was a disaster. They're still dealing in litigation with some 600 exemptions, I think.
Right.
Right. No, listen, we want people to want to work. The independent contractors are out there hungry, chasing business, trying to do work. We want that. Now, there also has to be, if you're an employee and treated like an employee, you should be an employee. I mean, I don't think anybody argues with that. But this rule that's coming through, it goes too far. And everybody knows it. Very few people are in favor of it, but yet it's happening anyway, and it just blows my mind.
But the lobbyists with the bigger money and the unions, of course, are all for it. So again, we've got two different kind of industry sectors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I understand.
It's not
I understand
one size fits all. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what the unions are trying to do. I mean, the unions want they want people to treat their employees like employees. They're and union work and it's more expensive work. I mean, you're paying a premium for that. And my argument always been, you should be getting a premium in return, and the unions deliver that quite often and very, very well. It's a well-trained workforce, a union workforce, and so, but you're paying a premium for it,
right?
And so they don't want people to be able to undercut them by sidestepping these rules, and so they work to intensify the rules and overcorrect to capture more people. But that's not a good answer either here. It really isn't. It should be the fair answer. Right down the pipe. The way it's working now, I don't see why it needs to be changed, to be honest.
Apparently, women are disproportionately affected by this. And there's been like a 7.4% decline of the women independent contractors. There's been a 10% decline overall. They saw this in California. They saw the Uber driver thing, I think, in Maryland, the Netherlands, not even in our country.
Right.
There was 90% of them just left the job. 90% of them.
Yeah, there's actually valid reasons why subcontractors would come in. The reason I was in Parsippany, I was managing an IBM contract, and many times there would be a specialized skill that you do not have on your staff, and you need somebody to come in, not permanently, not for a week or two, but maybe 3 months, get the job done. They are very much independent. They don't, we would tell them the specs, but they would work independently. They would not necessarily work out the same hours that we did. They might have their own tool set, that they use to get the job done. If you make this harder, but the other thing about it is they get paid a lot better when they come in as a subject matter expert. There are many benefits to a subcontractor because they'll work 3 months and then they'll take 3 months off and then go do another job. If you make it difficult,
it's great. We should have it. It's working fine. It's working fine. That's nothing. It's working fine. I don't know what the hell we're doing. Why break it? It's going fine. But
Our listeners might.
Because all they do is try to make lawmakers and bureaucrats always trying to just do something to do something. It's pointless.
Tell our listeners the difference. This is a resolution as opposed to a bill. And what does it mean that they're codifying a resolution? I think they don't know that, how this.
There's resolutions and bills, but those are in, that's legislative speak. This, I believe, is a rule. Right. Through Department of Labor, it might be. It's a rule change. It's different than something that we would pass. So this did not come through the legislature. Right. This is done by bureaucrats. And you mentioned you listen to the Department of Labor testimony. I think they put out the rule change and then they hear testimony about it and then they make a decision on that. That's outside of the legislative process. So there's legislative resolutions. So I'm not familiar with how they do it, the terms, but in the legislative body, there are resolutions and there are bills. Bills make laws. Resolutions just, I don't know what the hell they do. They just say things. But what you're talking about is specifically rulemaking. Right.
And then there's administrative code. That's another sort of nuanced variation of this. It's not a law, but it's sort of like regulations.
But to most of the population, a law is a law. They don't know the difference between a rule or a law.
Yes, that's
or
true.
Bill,
yeah.
And why you're not involved in the legislature and that kind of thing.
Yeah, this seems, it's not broken, so don't fix it. So
right.
We're going to come up on our quick break here, Brian, and right afterwards we're going to talk about we're going to bring you back to the last lame duck session where we were throwing money around in the state. So we'll be right back.
All right.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up. Because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. But America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. The New Jersey Statehouse Watch, hosted by Jack Brangan and Constance Ditzel. APN's The Pulse is moderated by either Alexandra, Damon, Elena, or Seth. Also tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X, Rumble, Truth Social, Parler, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Join the revolution because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
Okay, we are back. And now we're going to dig into big business. And this is big business in sports. I'm sure we have people who are listening. We got a lot of sports fans. There always are. So we're going to talk about sports, big developers, and big tax credits for those who play ball. Now, we in Camden remember in 2014 that we had the 76ers practice stadium, and they were awarded or given, or however you call it, $82 million in tax credits. And one of the big sales here was all the jobs, and it turned out to be only 11 jobs for people in Camden. And I wonder if you're versed in this $300 million that was thrown at the Prudential Center up in North Jersey. We heard about this in the lame duck session, what these tax credits are about for $300 million up there.
Yes, but I actually somewhat disagree with my colleagues on this one in particular. Okay. So tax credits, can be bad and they can also be good. In the case of the Prudential Center in Newark, the building that the Prudential Center is, it's a Newark Housing Authority owned, so it's a government building. And the tax credits are all directly related to improvements on the building that they would need to do to stay there. And, so there's a couple arguments there. It's like, they're making tons and tons of money. why give them any support, which I get that argument, of course. But from my perspective, now I voted against the bill because it brought in a whole bunch of other things, and this was one single component. But I'm not that against helping out a business with tax credits, because in order to get a tax credit, they have to be generating tax revenue in the first place for the state, of which they do a lot. And I have personally witnessed the area around the Prudential Center change very dramatically over the past decade. I mean, very, very dramatically. It used to be a dump, and now the place is great. And a lion's share of that goes to the investments that the Devils have made there. So I was actually for that. Now, I'm not for all tax credits, and they can be a train wreck. There's no doubt about that. But also, kind of like we were talking about before, we got to invest we have to make business want to operate here. And sometimes, because we make it so difficult, this is one of the things that on occasion we have to do. So I'm not so appalled by it. Now, my colleagues hate it. And, so Dawn's clip when we first started, they wanted to tear the house down, and they all make fun of me for being supportive of that particular angle, for sure. But listen, I'm not your one size fits all kind of guy. I have different. I take each issue for what it is, and I develop my own personal opinion on this one. I think those tax credits aren't a terrible idea, but it was in a bill that offered a broader expansion of what I considered a corporate giveaway. That was not okay with me, so I ultimately voted no.
Right. So it was $300 million in tax credits, right? Is that
right?
Right.
Over, I think it was a decade.
Right.
And it had to be related to building improvement. Like I said, the building is not their building. It's not like we're giving it for it's a public building.
Okay, it's not the Harris Blitzer. It's not owned by them.
No, they don't own the building. The building's owned by the Newark Housing Authority. So the investments they make, if they were, because one of the things that people were saying was, well, what if you give them this and then they leave anyway? Well, that's a good point. But what I was saying was the investments they make stay. So even if you give them tax credits for making the investments they make stay with the building, then it's an improvement.
So the tax credit really went to the housing authority, the public entity that owned.
Basically, because it was specific to improvements in the building.
Right.
So it incentivized them to invest in improvements in the building.
Okay.
And so I apologize. I know you probably wanted me to get fiery on the other side and say, this is crap. But
no,
this is we went your opinion. We went truthful opinions because we saw what happened in Camden. We drew parallels there.
That's true.
We thought it was the same owners.
Yeah.
No,
it might be, and that's a risk. And listen, there's no doubt it's a risk. And ultimately, kind of why I voted no. There was a lot of weird stuff happening in this bill, and so. But conceptually, I'm not against tax credits, because it's okay to incentivize business, in my personal opinion, especially when you have 11% tax rate and you're killing them. So you got to offer some relief, or they're going to go somewhere else.
All right. So the $300 million tax credit, okay, that's taxes that are not collected. So we start off in the hole. How do we know we're getting that back? Or in back plus some? Does anybody actually track that?
No, you don't. That's part of the risk. And that's why these things are tricky, and why we should always be extremely cautious when we look to do them, because you just, the bottom line is you don't know. Like you said, the 76ers thing, you can end up with 11 employees. You can end up with a bad deal. I mean, because when they write these things, they don't write real concrete deliverables and accountability. And that's another issue with them. And that's an issue with a lot of stuff in the state budget, whether it's tax credits or it's funding that we do for organizations. There's not a lot of strings attached. It's kind of just given to them. And so that part I certainly don't agree with. There should be some accountability behind any support we ever give.
Right. Yeah, this was part of a Grow New Jersey, the tax credit thing, I believe. And I think it would be good for people to understand that these credits can be sold for cash, right?
Yeah, well, yes. And I'm not an expert on that. There are certain ways to sell tax credits, and I don't totally get how that works, to be honest with you. So I don't know.
Less than 75 cents on the dollar. Less than 75 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, so I did research that when it came to the Soda Pop Act, because if I may transition for a second, in the Soda Pop Act, they were offering tax credits to these diners. Well, diners very rarely show much profit to begin with. And in the state of New Jersey, you can participate in something called the bait, which is basically it's a scam that New Jersey created, where you pay a fee to the state of New Jersey equal to your tax bill, and then they refund your taxes. So it basically what it is. It's so that you can reduce your total net income so that you pay less federal taxes. It's a weird game that New Jersey played to screw the federal government. The bottom line is, because you did that, any tax burden you had, state level tax burden as a diner, would be paid as the bait and not as true tax. And so there's no tax to refund. So they said you can get up to $25,000 tax rebate, but there's nothing to rebate because you don't pay tax, you pay the bait. So I did research it, and you can sell those tax credits.
Yeah.
But the market isn't great. It's not like dollar for dollar. It's 60 cents, I think, is the average that you get on it.
Yeah, so I would hope that the Treasury Department would keep track of all these tax credits, that were given out to businesses. And I understand, it does generate businesses and encourage businesses to come to New Jersey.
Yeah, you got to be selective on them, too. I mean, I voted against the Next New Jersey Manufacturing Program, which is a $500 million tax credit for manufacturing development in New Jersey. I just thought that bill was stupid, and I didn't think anybody was going to take advantage of it. And the ones that would, I thought were going to be, the first couple of years, they had to be renewable energy sources, and I was scared it would be offshore wind, since offshore wind was specifically listed in the bill. So I voted against that one. I actually just opened all the applications. So I have all the applications received so far on that. But, and I voted for, one time I voted for the Netflix tax credits. Another time I voted against them because they came back around. So I look at them each individually.
Good.
Because I can't say I hate tax credits for business. I don't. I think there's a role for them, and that each individual situation should be independently reviewed. That's my perspective.
Yeah.
We have a machine in Camden that was involved in our situation of three brothers, one a congressman, one a developer, one an attorney. And there was some bitterness over this one because they had their fingers in all of this. They shall go unnamed.
Well, in a lot of these things, somebody, if you peel back the onion far enough, you'll start to see, these things never materialize for the good of the world. There's always something in it for somebody.
So in that same lame duck session, Lou Greenwald had the net benefits bill that was structured, defined such that it would apply to Camden. And my understanding of that bill is that if I thought the net benefits was that if you get $100,000 in tax credits, New Jersey will expect $125,000 return over a period of time, in revenue. So that was the net benefit to New Jersey.
Oh,
His
right.
bill,
Yes.
His bill released Camden from all of this, so they could get $100,000, and maybe they throw New Jersey, $40,000 in return, something like that, in revenue, in tax.
That's
revenue.
Right. That could have been in the Prudential Center bill. That could have been the same bill. It was the same time. It might have been interconnected to it. Might have been separate, but I do remember that there was, that was an attempt on accountability. There had to be a net benefit in order to get it. And he pulled that away. Look, Lou Greenwald's not trying to do good for anybody besides Lou Greenwald.
I think that was passed, right? I think that. Oh yeah,
it was passed. Yes.
Yeah, everything gets passed.
Right. Everything we're talking about was passed. Yes.
Yeah. So, if you look at Camden over the years, what has for the power brokers in Camden have used this town. Basically, I call it a monopoly board. They build nice hotels. They have Rutgers there, which I think Rutgers gets $1 billion or something a year anyhow. And they have, Cooper Hospital, which is all fine and good, but the neighborhoods, look like Hyderabad, India. It's just horrible. Yet the builders, the unions, are the beneficiaries of these tax credits, and it's like the 76ers. It cost them $86 million to build. They get an $80 million tax credit. $6 million, good deal.
We also have fun in Camden with the school district there. They're in the Abbott schools. They're one of the 10 schools that gets the top 10 funding. They have a $91 million deficit this year. Yeah. And it's run by the state of New Jersey superintendent and a board that oversees. So this is on the state too for the deficit of the schools in Camden.
Crazy.
That's a whole nother, we're talking sports tonight. That's a whole nother literal ball game, quite honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So the list here on that lame duck, and I'll just sort of go through them only because here in Cherry Hill, we're getting hit with a 7%, school tax increase. So while we're throwing this money around, we have school districts that are, going broke. During the lame duck session, there was $6.5 million for psilocybin research. This was not tax credits. This was cash.
Right.
This would have made Cherry Hill whole for the year. This $6.5 million. There was the Sanctuary State, which I mentioned. There's a drain of over $6 billion. Then there was FIFA money, where
for advertising, if I remember right.
Right, and I did listen to that session again, the archive, and I didn't realize that New Jersey had already plopped down $64 million for FIFA prior to the lame duck, and then there was another $20 million that was passed, of which that went to Tammy Murphy's organization for
it's a crazy amount of money. And that one you're paying, I think it was $28 million or something to advertise the World Cup. Everybody friggin' knows the World Cup's coming, man. You don't got to tell anybody. Everybody knows. It's a ridiculous amount of money. And then Governor Sherrill is like beating on FIFA, which I get, and they deserve to be beat on in somewhat, but we're spending $28 million advertising the event. I mean, it's just I can't make heads or tails of this stuff.
We have this letter we want to throw up on an image that we want to put on the screen that apparently was drafted recently.
Yeah. This has to do with FIFA, and you probably heard of the hubbub over the tickets that were given to.
Yes.
So I know most people probably can't read that. So the second paragraph I'm going to read here. According to NorthJersey.com, the host committee. This is Tammy Murphy's committee, paid the full cost of 1,000 World Cup tickets and transferred them to New York City under an arrangement negotiated between your organization and Mayor Zohan Mamdani. The tickets are being made available to New York City residents exclusively at $50 apiece and free round-trip bus service to the stadium in East Rutherford. New Jersey residents have no comparable program. They face round-trip fares of $100 each to the stadium in their own state. So this is unforgivable.
Hey, listen, I don't agree with anything Mamdani does, but good job on him, man. He did a good job getting that for them. I got to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, we didn't take care of ourselves. Right.
Right. Too bad nobody in New Jersey is looking out for the people of New Jersey. I mean, right now it's just they're just bashing FIFA, and then there's plenty of time to make deals and do things, smart things. Like that's smart. That's smart.
Yeah.
Why is nobody doing that for people in New Jersey? Instead, the governor comes in. The first thing she wants to do is raise the sales tax in the area and charge extra tax on hotel rooms. That's her solution. Meanwhile, you got this guy who I wouldn't agree on anything else in the whole world, but this, got to give him credit, man. That was pretty smart.
And Jack, we kind of swallowed the name there, but this is a Tammy Murphy committee. The second page of that letter is that they're asking for this is for assembly people, Assemblyman Rumpf, Barlas, Ingenamort, and Scharfenberger drafted this letter, and they're just looking for an accounting of expenditures and allocations of $50 million received from the state of New Jersey, the terms of the agreement about the tickets that we just talked about, the equivalent community access programs for New Jerseyans, and they're looking to have this at least discussed at the during the budget committees the week of June 9th. Now, they sent this letter asking for a reply. This letter was sent April 23rd. Nada. No response.
Yeah.
So there's not even a respectful kind of reply from the host committee or whomever this was. Who was this directed to? Was it dear Tammy Murphy?
Yeah, it was to Tammy Murphy.
So you'd think she would appreciate or understand the importance of making this transparency, but nothing. This is a month ago. No response.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's sweating a little bit. I don't know how she's going to explain this.
This is why I call this big business in New Jersey, another sports thing where we're digging into pockets of regular dudes.
Yeah. But you know,
people.
One of the things I think though about this is like this was a real opportunity for New Jersey to look good, and every day we look stupid. You know, there's $150 for a ticket back and forth. Like that's moronic, and you know, there's no reason to take that kind of stance. We just look dumb to the whole world. We look dumb. You know, you could take a train from the World Cup all the way to Philly for less than from New York City to you know, it's dumb. And so as much as I agree that, you know, we should push back on FIFA, there's no doubt about that, but we also shouldn't make ourselves look stupid in the process. And instead of spending $28 million on advertising, maybe we spend $28 million on relieving the cost of transportation for people. Yeah. Maybe we spend a portion on that on buying tickets for people. We should be smarter with our own decisions, on our own negotiation, and our own money. And we also have to recognize that, you know, the positive economic impact that comes from this thing. That's why it was lobbied to come here. We can't act like it's a tremendous burden on our state. It's a good thing. We want people to come. We want to showcase New Jersey. We want these things. And it seems that we're acting like right now is that we're pissed the World Cup is coming. We're pissed. And I think it makes New Jersey look stupid, and that bothers me a little bit.
And this is the Democrat leadership who talks about affordability. They pretend of the concern for affordability with something like this. You know, actually, they hijacked that from the Republicans who brought that up in the last election. Affordability. That was our concern. They hijacked that and
they certainly
pretended it was theirs.
So they're going to raise the sales tax, right, in the vicinity of the stadium there.
Well, that got shot down, thank goodness. But
okay.
Yeah. Well, the governor wanted to do that. She wanted to do a 3% sales tax hike within a 30-mile radius, a 30 square mile area that surrounds the Meadowlands, essentially. I don't know why. I mean, that was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, because you're taxing your own people in that area. It didn't make any sense.
It sounds illegal, actually, but
it sounds like a price gouging to me.
The person who's concerned about affordability,
right. But I don't think that had any legs with the legislature. Nobody wanted to touch that with a 10-foot pole, and it would have had to go through the legislature, so it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Now they are going to be doing hotel taxes and things like that. They're going to do other ones. Is that?
Well, I don't think that's on the table yet either. And it was a 2.5% hotel tax. I don't believe that's coming up for a vote either. I think that's dead in the water too.
Well, listen, we have another minute 40 left. Is there anything you want to share with us before we close out with you? Anything else you want to tell us about this topic or?
Well, I could just say, I mean, generally speaking, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the Statehouse in New Jersey. The one thing I found out most recently, and this is something interesting for all to know, is that the budget trumps all. So when we do the budget, that document by Constitution trumps everything else. And there's a little word they insert all over the place. It's the word notwithstanding. So they can put that we're going to do X, Y, and Z, notwithstanding law X, Y, Z. And then they can still do it. A good example of that is the State of New Jersey program. The State of New Jersey program was pushed out last year, even though we didn't have the budget surplus required by the law that we passed. There had to be a certain budget surplus, and there was not enough money to do it. But when I challenged it, I was told, yeah, Bri, but it says notwithstanding the law in the budget, so we can still pay the money. And that's something that we have to do away with. That's a bad tool that they have available to them.
It's their out.
It's an important 2 words. Sounds like it's pretty vital 2 words.
Very crazy. It's crazy.
So we're coming up on another ad here, and Brian, I think our segment's finishing up with you, and you have the rest of the night off.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You got it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Okay,
thank you.
We'll see you again.
We'll do it again sometime.
You got it.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
America's Pulse Network and the Jersey Shore podcast will be live streaming a town hall featuring Justin Murphy, candidate for Senate, and Damon Galdo, candidate for Congress, District 1 in New Jersey. The event will take place on May 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, broadcasting live from the Medford Community Center. You can watch the stream on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Substack.
About Damon and
And we are back. We do have that town hall coming up on
Friday.
Tell
everyone about it.
Yeah, that is in Medford. This is Friday night at 7 o'clock, and it's going to be at the Medford Community Center in Medford, New Jersey. And Damon Galdo, who is the congressional candidate for Congressional District Number 1, will be there, and Justin Murphy, who is running for U.S. Senate. And we're this is all a run-up to the primary.
Right. I think we might have a couple of our commissioners who are running.
Oh, okay. They're going to be there as well?
Yeah, they were invited.
Good.
Yes.
So this will be a great opportunity for people to come to Medford. It's a beautiful town.
It is. And the community center is actually really lovely.
Yeah. You can check it out. And we also have a couple guests coming up, right?
Yes. We have a next guest on in early June. Well, I shouldn't say early June, second week of June. Chris Russell. Chris Russell is a political consultant, campaign advisor, happened to be with the Chitterelli campaign. And we're going to switch gears and jump outside of the State House and talk to people who affect things going on in the State House, or who are driven to help people in State House.
Right. Yeah,
so
I'd like his opinion on what happened in the election.
We're going to talk about that. And then we also have coming up, Audrey Lane has got a really group running the Garden State Initiative. She's versed on budget. And as Brian said, this is very timely right now. We've got the budget that I think is going to be closed out end of June or so. So she's very timely time to talk to her and see what her take is on some of these budget issues.
Yeah. Okay.
So
with that, anything else you want to go over? Or
I don't know. There? We could talk about all kinds of things, but we don't want to keep you all night. We appreciate you tuning in. Do pass this on to some of your acquaintances, some of your friends. I got some people out of state who are interested in saying, what is going on in New Jersey? I'm saying, we're trying to tell you, because these things aren't going on in their state. They don't understand why executive orders and other things are routinely ignored here.
Yeah, we really need to fix things. And I mean, the reality is in New Jersey, there's not enough Republicans to put Republicans in office.
Yeah.
We really need the help of the independent and Democrat voters.
We do
to fix some of these things with the state. Because one thing we did not talk about is the dire situation with many of the school boards.
I was just going to say, I mean, you can't go to a town hall in New Jersey without somebody raising their hand and say, what's with the property taxes?
Yeah.
It's mentioned every time, and they got to connect the dots when we have 1 in 10 of our citizens who are illegally here, to whom we're giving numerous services, $925 million in K-12 education, $5 million in college grants even.
Yeah.
The list goes on. Then you got to start connecting the dots. If you want to extend your generosity, you got to realize it's coming out of your pocketbook.
Yeah. So here's an example. These are unbelievable numbers. Hackensack Public Schools laying off around 100 teachers and instructional staff. They're $24 million in the hole. Montclair, over 100 staff layoffs, $20 million short. Patterson, 89, plus 243 jobs through attrition. Millstone is going to increase taxes 21%. Republicans can't fix this.
Your town, Cherry Hill, 72 teachers laid off.
72 teachers.
Plus another 8 million coming from elsewhere. Collingswood, closing Garfield Elementary.
That's right. Haddonfield Township, I have here 15% school tax increase. Ocean Gate, 27%, which the voters rejected. Maybe, I don't know if voters they used to be able to vote on increases on school budgets. That's the way it used to be. Maybe they got to put that back in place.
I don't know. But another thing is they're saying the healthcare costs are going up so much. Well, for teachers, again, connect the dots.
Yeah.
1 in 5 on Medicaid. Again, it's coming out of our pockets. So
right. We've got the teacher pension, which is we put down $9 billion every year to keep that at 55% solvent. It's not even 100%. And then there's the insurance fund, which listening to the state treasurer is in drastic condition financially. So this is unsustainable. As I mentioned, there's not enough Republicans who are trying to fix this, but they just can't. There's not enough.
We don't have enough of them in legislature. Yeah. And frankly, one of our goals is a lot of people don't know, as we didn't, as to recently the past 2 years or so, as to just really what is going on in the Statehouse and the kinds of bills that are passed.
Yeah.
We've been tuning in just because we're so interested. We're like, really? That passed? Really? This was discussed? It's just one appalling thing after another. So we became intrigued and trying to let you all know, too, just what is going on in your own state up in Trenton.
Okay.
So, good.
So we're up June 9th.
We are up June 9th. Is it June 9th? Yes, Chris Russell on June 9th.
Or you can access njstatehousewatch.com and, see any of the prior episodes. And with that, I'll say good night.
Great. Good night, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the New Jersey Statehouse Watch. Join Jack Brangan and Constance Ditzel every second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 7:30 p.m. Watch the show live at njstatehousewatch.com or listen anytime. Download the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time on the New Jersey Statehouse Watch.